It's time now for A World Is One special interview. The year's second tennis Grand Slam, the French Open, will get underway later this month. And earlier this week, I had the pleasure of speaking to someone who knows a thing or two about winning titles at Roland Garros. In a short professional career spanning barely a decade, Justine Henin marked herself down as one of the greatest players of the modern era. She won 7 Grand Slam titles in the space of just 5 years, which included a hat-trick on the red clay courts of Paris. Here she is, looking back on some of the iconic moments of her career and analysing the current state of women's tennis. I have a 7-time Grand Slam champion, 4-time French Open champion, Olympic gold medalist, former world #1, Justine Henin. That's a very impressive CV. I must say welcome to India first of all, because I think this is the first time that you're coming here.
Yes, it is the first time. It's a wonderful opportunity. I said yes at the first minute because a lot of different elements really convinced me to be here. It's an honor to represent Roland Garros with this initiative to give the opportunity for 2 young Indian players to go and play the Grand Slam, you know. I mean, to get the opportunity to get the wild card to go into the Grand Slam. It's a tournament I love so much. That I can talk about easily, and also about the clay, which is a surface that's not very common in India, so gives us the opportunity to share with the kids also about that. So yeah, I have a wonderful time, and I hope it's going to be an amazing souvenir for these 2 players, and I hope they will be able to make it, of course.
I cannot think of a better ambassador for the French Open, because while you did win titles at a lot of other tournaments, pretty much every tournament and every surface out there, the connection with the French Open personally for you was special, wasn't it?
It was special because it's the tournament that I was watching on TV when I was 5, and the tournament that I was dreaming of, and I will always remember the sound, you know, even if I was watching on TV, the sound of the clay, and I was watching Steffi Graf, who is my idol, and so my first, I would say, connection to tennis is Roland Garros almost. I was playing with my brothers, and we were watching TV together, so it was wonderful. And then I've been with my mom and Roland Garros. I said to her, one day I will be on this court and I will win. I was 10 years old at the time, and then I played the juniors, I won the juniors, and then I won 4 times. And even now when I go back, there's something very strong. I feel connected. It's almost my second home, or my garden, even if it's clay, but it's really a special place for me. All the players have a certain connections with different tournaments, and for me, I've always been clear that it's a big love story between the tournament and me.
I want to talk about that first Grand Slam title, 2003. You were, of course, up against your countrywoman in Kim Clijsters. Can you talk to me a little bit about how it felt approaching that match? Because here were 2 Belgian women who were both simultaneously, trying to achieve something that no Belgian player had achieved before.
That for all these reasons that you mentioned, there was a lot of pressure. And also for me, I promised my mom when I was 10, and she passed away when I was 12. So it became almost my mission to win in Roland Garros. So I will always remember that day when I woke up very early, because you're quite anxious for sure, all the players. And I said, no, this one is for me. It has to be for me. And I arrived with a lot of determination on the court. I didn't have any guarantee, of course, but I felt that, okay, I want to make it. I want to be part of the history of the Belgian tennis, the Belgian sport, but I want to reach my dream. That was even more important than the rest. And of course, there were a lot of expectations, a lot of Belgian people, and a lot of attentions, but I always tried to stay in my bubble, very focused on myself, on what I had to do to win the match, and it worked pretty good. So it's when you win, it's almost a second of eternity that is still very hard to describe.
Between 2003 and 2007, you had some absolutely phenomenal numbers, all 7 of your Grand Slam titles. I think it was 3 more finals, another semi-final as well. And this is in a time when there were quite a few very strong players in the women's field. When you look back now, can you think of a reason behind this sustained success? What made you so successful over a long period of time?
But because physically I worked very hard. In end of 2002 and beginning of 2003, I decided to to go to the States to work with a fitness coach at that time, Pat Echeverry, who worked with the most famous players, and Pat brought me to another level. I knew that physically I had to improve. I was 10 already in the world, which was fantastic, and I wanted to be number one. And if I wanted to compete with the tallest and strongest girl than I was, with Serena and the others, because all the others also were physically pretty tough to beat at the time, I had to go to the level. Tennistically, I was good, but physically, I missed a little bit something. So I think it has been a big difference. I knew also at that time when I decided to work like this that I couldn't have a long career because I would push my body at a certain level that it would be hard for me to handle. As you see, I'm not so tall, I'm not so strong, so I knew that I was making a choice at that time, but I wanted to reach my dream, and I did.
Okay, I want to talk about a couple of contemporary tennis issues before I wrap up this conversation. We mentioned the amount of consistency that you had between 2003 2007. Somehow we're not seeing as much consistency overall in the women's game over the last 2 or 3 years. As a former player, somebody who's observing the sport now, have you been able to pinpoint a reason why we have developed this trend where players have a season, or a good season or two, then tend to dip, or a couple of good tournaments and then tend to dip?
I think the players see it as opportunities now. Okay, many different girls win, so I can win also, which is positive. In another way, the game needs also consistency, and personally, I miss that a little bit in the game right now. I think the mentalities change also a little bit, and I think a lot of things have changed in the society and in the world. And if we just want to talk, for example, about the communication, the social media, there is a lot of energy also for the players that they put into this, and when they put into this, they don't put into their practice or into their focus on their game. It could be part of the reason, a little bit of an explanation, but as I said, most of the players see that as another kind of opportunity to really not being at the best for a few weeks or a few months and then come back. The pressure has changed. The circuit is changed, but I remain very confident. We can see that the level of the game kept improved. We see very good matches. Physically, things are still improving also, and game is getting more physical and more physical. So we're gonna probably adjust and adapt, but we're gonna see players in the future that I think are gonna be able, always a 7 or 8 same in the tournaments to compete and to fight together, because that's what the crowd expects also.
Yeah, I have one final question, and this is one that you've answered quite a bit. This is about the French Open coming up. I want to talk about the women first. I've heard you mention that you think Simona Halep, for you, is the favorite at the French Open. She's obviously the defending champion as well. Who else do you see among this current crop of the female players who you think will dominate the sport over the next few years?
It's very hard to say because many young players are coming, and we don't know yet them enough to say, okay, this is going to be the one. We have to speak about Osaka. She won the last 2 Grand Slams. She's still very young. I think she has the capacity in her game to dominate also in a certain way. Other girls proved, Andreescu winning in Indian Wells, and we have other girls, Sabalenka came on the 2 very young girls also. Diana Yastremska got into top 40 at 18 years old also. So there are interesting things to come for sure. But I think that now the one who are going to be the more consistent can still be the names that are not the new players. So Petra Kvitova is playing pretty good also in the last few weeks or few months. And Simona Halep, I say it again, for me, she can stay at the top for a little longer. So it's going to be exciting, very open. Hard to say, but that's what I like in the game. It's when it's getting exciting. It's going to be the same in the men's row. It's going to be very open. So I think that we can expect, I hope, a fantastic edition of Roland Garros.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.